Hey guys, we are at Channel Weird again. We gather together on Saturday to delve into some of the weird stuff, and I'm Clyde Lewis, glad to be here. So here's something that it's kind of offbeat for us, but probably not for me and several other people who listen to my Ground Zero program. Um, I know that when I post some things on my Facebook page, some people say, "Who cares?" Especially when it comes to the Royals. And I know that the Queen is now 70 years on the throne, and we've been, I guess, watching to see just how long she's going to last because there have been rumors that she's been sick, and there are rumors that the Pope is sick, and there are rumors that we also have it's not rumors, we have an ailing president. And what's interesting about all that is there's a reason why leaders are leaders. And whenever I post something about the Queen, people say, "Who cares? What do we care about the Queen? What do we care about royals?" Well, there's something about the royals that a lot of people don't know, and the reason why they're in power. There's a lot of reasons why popes are in power. There are a lot of reasons why presidents are in power. It has everything to do with bloodline lineage, and that's the secret. Bloodlines, royal families that have bloodlines. You've heard of the 13 bloodlines. You've heard of Grail lore. You've heard of genealogies that go back to Joseph of Arimathea, or they go back to King David. And a lot of people wonder if there's any truth to this. And I've always been fascinated by it. And, I never really take it to the radio show because sometimes I think it's over a lot of people's heads. But really, it is, I'd say, I don't know if it's conspiracy theory 101 or it's, the basic history of the secret. And a lot of that is, of course, the dragon bloodlines, the Merovingian bloodlines, all of these bloodlines that people want to know more about. And so I have invited on Channel Weird today Thomas O'Kelly, a historian and royal genealogist specializing in the Holy Roman Empire, the Teutonic Knights, and the Dragon Court, or the Dragon Descent. And
Yes.
welcome to the show, Thomas. Welcome.
Hey, thank you for having me.
This is a very highbrow subject for a lot of people, but it is the basis for a lot of investigating into just why there are people out there that rule us. And it's because they have this idea that they have divine blood, and there are genealogies that have either been forged or they're reality that a lot of people, including Prince Charles and Queen Elizabeth, they all believe that they have a bloodline that can go all the way back to Jesus Christ. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, well, when you start off with genealogy, one thing you have to keep in mind is we don't have a lot of the records. There's not a lot of genealogies that can actually prove that they're related to Jesus. The fact is, a lot of that is kind of more of a pseudo-history thing. And so you kind of get cross-pollinated with this subject matter, especially when you get into being a historian and a genealogist. And even though I am not decorated with a degree in history, I do deal with a lot of people that are educated, and especially when you're dealing with curators on certain genealogical websites, such as genie.com, which I do work with. And of course, Abby works a lot with Ancestry. So when you... Abby DeVere, yes.
Yeah.
She works more with Ancestry. I work more with Genie. And with the curators, a lot of them are very educated. And of course, there's only so much information. And a lot of people would love to be related to Jesus or Mary Magdalene, or we dream about this stuff. But closer at hand, there are genealogies and bloodlines out there. And I think even with more of a conspiratorial thing, to cover up history or rewrite history, this isn't the first time. Like today in our modern day time, we're dealing with a cancel culture. And cancel culture is not a new thing. Anytime you see a face chiseled off an ancient, statue of somebody or anything, they're trying to erase that person. They're trying to erase that history. Like a good example would be Akhenaten. He was killing off tens of thousands of people that went worship the Aten. And by the time people couldn't take it anymore, they ran him out, tore up his city, and then started chiseling his face off all the statues so they could forget that he ever existed. They weren't successful with that because we still know about him. But you get into more of the like you 13 bloodlines. You mentioned the 13 bloodlines of Satan and whatnot, and being related to Jesus. You can't really prove that. If you can get back to about 1200, you're really lucky. If you
Well,
get back to fixing that,
don't they pay genealogists though? I've noticed there was a time when I was really into studying Anglo-Israelism, and the idea that, of course, the offshoot of the Roman Empire was, of course, London, and the people in the UK and Ireland and Wales and all these places. And I was studying this, and I swear that the royals pay good money to prove that they have a bloodline that goes all the way back to either Joseph of Arimathea or Jesus. And I was just curious, do they actually believe this?
there are a lot of people that would probably promote this and believe this. But I mean, honestly, the academia, if you really wanted to get into the academia part, like, do we have facts? No, we don't have any facts whatsoever to prove that you're related to Joseph of Arimathea or Cleopatra. We get close. Like I can get close into the families that are intermarried. So you can go your seventh for cousin, 8 times removed is related to their third wife's fourth cousin, 52 times removed, whatever, and you could say, well, see, look, I'm related to Ptolemy.
Right.
Other than getting into the DNA part of it, we really have a hard time getting back that far. There are 5 bloodlines within the rabbinical side of things to prove that you're related to Jesus, or the Judean royal family, so to speak, or if you have ancient, families. There is the Scher, von Scher. It's usually depicted as Schere. That family can prove that they lived in the time of Jesus in Jerusalem, which is really rare. So when anytime you see a Scher name, that person is actually truly Jewish, going all the way back to Jerusalem in the time of Jesus. But very few families have that kind of ability to do that. And even with all that, or there's another name, Quetzalcoatl. They have proof that they can go back to the royal or back to Jewish heritage in ancient times, but they don't have any connection to Jesus directly.
Right, because we are having this controversy right now with like Whoopi Goldberg and what she said about the races and everything, and about what's Jewish, what isn't Jewish, what isn't and it's all about whether it's blood race or everybody now, since we're into genotyping, everybody now is into the blood and DNA of what kind of stock you are, and that's why I think your work in genealogy is very important.
Yeah. Well, then the other thing, I mean, this is a really loaded subject matter. It really is, because some people get really offended with this kind of material. Now, personally, I believe that Jesus did have children, and I believe that he did make his way to Britain, and I believe he even built the temple. I believe I forget the name of the island there offhand, but I believe that he traveled, because I know that Joseph of Arimathea in his day, or that's really not his name, that's actually part of his title. He was one of 3 sons of Miriam, the Hasmonean princess that Herod married, and Herod the Great married her. They had 3 kids. He was the eldest, and he was excommunicated by Herod, his dad. His dad hated him, wanted to kill him, and sent him off. And he kept his other 2 brothers around that he liked better. But the Ramatheo and something Decurio, I'm sorry, this has been so long since I read this material, but he was awarded these types of titles in Rome, because that's where the Joseph of Arimathea of history actually went. And so he would have been Jesus's cousin and uncle at the same time. And that's because of all the intermarriage and everything else. Because Miriam II, or Miriam, the Hasmonean princess, she was actually, in my belief, married to Caesarion, who was the son of Cleopatra VII and Julius Caesar. Apologize.
Right.
But Caesarion would have been not only the Holy Roman Emperor, but he was the king of Judea officially. He was the Egyptian king. And when Julius Caesar said, hey, I am now God, and then Cleopatra VII was like the goddess, that's not saying that they rose in a deiform where you worship me. What he was really telling Rome is, I'm giving up my pagan Roman beliefs, and now I've converted to an early form, a precursor to Christianity. He had made a conversion and converted for Cleopatra the Seventh's sake. And so these titles, Son of God, God, go back to Soterism, or the word Soter that the Ptolemies adopted.
So is the title of Vicar of Christ with regard to pontifex? We're looking at Caesar. We're looking at various popes afterward. Is all bloodline connected in that regard as well? I mean, do we see a bloodline connection to the early popes and the early Roman Catholics?
Yes. I mean, there's a lot of bloodlines that are trying to tie themselves in and fake their way. And this happened later on, especially with the Tudor, the whole Tudor reign. The, selling titles, giving people, a patent that says, hey, you're somebody and stuff like that. But true royalty doesn't need that. Like, if we go back into what we're talking about here, do I believe that Jesus had children? Yes, I believe he had multiple children, but I believe also there's multiple generations of Jesus. And I believe they are related. And I believe these families did come together, but they've been erased by cancel culture.
But did they originate in France? I mean, did Jesus go to Britain or did he go to Gaul? That's the question.
Well, he traveled all around because Joseph of Arimathea, he actually owned a lot of mines, going all as far as around to Japan, and then coming back all the way around to Britain. Okay, and I believe even possibly, I don't know this for a fact, he may have even made it to what we call the United States. But that's speculative. But I do know that he owned mines all the way to Britain. So Jesus was born into the third richest family in the Middle East at that time. Mary Magdalene was actually her family owned all the sea around Galilee. All the Galileans were mainly a part of her family, which she was part. Well, they used to call it the Achaemenid Empire, but they're just old Persians mixed with Egyptians and Britannians. So you got Trojan blood, you've got blood coming out of Britannia and the Gaul, a lot of mixture in there. So Mary Magdalene was mixed with a lot of different prominent families, and her family was even richer than Jesus' family. So when Jesus needed help, it was her family who paid for all of everything that they did back then politically. Okay, so I know that Jesus traveled around with his uncle a lot as a kid. And so everybody's like, what are the missing years of Jesus? Well, Jesus spent a lot of time sailing around the world. That's why you have all these stories that we saw. Jesus came here. We saw him, and some of them are depicted Jesus without a beard or anything, so because he was very young. And growing up, traveling around with his uncle and seeing the world changed the real Jesus' life. The other problem is the dating. Often Jesus appeared to a lot of people long before he supposedly was born. And this is why you have Caesarion, marrying Miriam. They had a son. Their vizier was a Joseph, and that was one of the grandsons of Herod as well, who was her vizier. He took her into hiding, and then he was born in a cave. Okay. Well, he had a son with Mary Magdalene. His firstborn son was Jesus. That Jesus married a Sarah. And he's the Jesus that we hear about in the time of when we say Jesus was living in 1 AD, 7 AD, and then being crucified. That's the Jesus that we all hear about, that generation. Then there's the third generation Jesus, which is Jesus Justus, and he's even in the Bible, and he traveled around with the Apostle Paul.
I want you to hold for a moment. This is very fascinating. We have with us Thomas O'Kelly. We're talking about genealogies, royal bloodlines, and now we're talking about Jesus and the background there in history. Fascinating program on Channel Weird. Back with more. Don't go away.
Awesome.
On the phone with me is Ronnie from GetTheTea.com. Hey, Ronnie, it is the tea that makes you go, I know this because I use it. My favorite is pomegranate. What kind of flavors are there to choose from with this wonderful tea?
You can do pomegranate. You can do just the straight, which is real good. And also we have a mint, a peppermint. People really love that one too. And we have a couple new flavors on the way, which I will not discuss yet, but they're coming.
You know, a lot of people don't know that peppermint is a very, very good supplement to keep the stomach happy. It relaxes the intestines, and once again, it makes you feel better because it allows them to move around and get that stuff out of you, that bad stuff out of you.
Absolutely. This is a digest mover. So people have a hard time digesting stuff, or you get something stuck, or maybe you're a real heavy meat eater. The tea is wonderful. That's why it's tagline, the tea that makes you go.
If I want my life to change and get the tea, where do I go to get it?
GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea, TEA.com.
Fantastic. It's all over the news, food shortages and scarcity in the supply chain. And the reality is nobody truly knows what might happen in the near future. Hi, I'm Clyde Lewis, and I want to let you know that it's a good idea to plan ahead so you aren't caught off guard. Nothing's more important than having enough food to eat, and we're here to help. We highly recommend My Patriot Supply, America's leading emergency preparedness company. They provide long-term emergency food that lasts up to 25 years in storage. When grocery stores run empty or disasters strike, their foods will be there when you need them most. Act now and secure at least a 4-week emergency food kit full of tasty meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. They have dozens of emergency food storage kits to choose from, along with a variety of other survival products. If the government tells you not to go out, you can have the peace of mind that comes from being prepared. After you order from My Patriot Supply, your food will arrive discreetly at your doorstep. Prepare today, because time is short. Go to preparewithgroundzero.com. That's preparewithgroundzero.com. Hey guys, it's Clyde Lewis from Ground Zero. You know, with the rise of the cancel culture and an increase in social media censorship, we need to make a big change. So we decided to create a very unique digital platform. It's called Aftermath.media. It's an exclusive online multimedia library featuring an interactive social media section with a chat room, videos, audio clips, archived Ground Zero podcasts, documents, books, and magazines. Our news aggregator provides current news relating to many of the topics we cover. We're expanding our research and study groups as well, which presently includes Tracy Twyman, William Cooper, Mae Brussel, and Jim Keith. Also, check out popular podcast Conspirafact with Wes and Bill. Updated apps will be available soon. The monthly subscription for Aftermath is only $10 a month, and if you sign up now for the yearly subscription, it's only $79. You want to hear the shows you love and support Great Talk Radio. Go to Aftermath.media. Again, that's Aftermath.media.
Thomas O'Kelly with us on Channel Weird. It's amazing what you probably don't know about ancient bloodlines, or at least royal blood. And what brought this on was the fact that the Queen now has been sitting at the throne for 70 years. And, of course, people are concerned about these figures, the Pope, the Queen, the President. But what they're all connected with is bloodline lineage. And I think that's the biggest secret of all, is that the genealogies of these leaders go back to royalty. And some royalty goes all the way back to the times of Jesus or the times of King David. At least so we think. There's a lot of debate on why royals are royals. There's a lot of debate. And we were talking about, and this may be new to a lot of people, the idea that Jesus had children. Now, I've always been confused, Thomas, about that. Did he have the children in the time where they didn't talk about them in the Bible? I mean, we go all the way from his birth to 33 years where he was doing his ministry and then he dies. But was this pre-death or was this after death? Because there's an argument as to whether or not Jesus really died on the cross or that he was taken down and that in that time he escaped with Mary and Margaret and then had the kids and that. What is your thoughts on that?
Well, first off, if we take what we have a certain amount of information available through Joseph of Arimathea, and he mentions 5 Jesuses that lived in the time that we would consider the time period of Jesus. And then he mentions a Jesus that existed before, before 50 years before first AD, So, and we have a problem with the calendar and the dating because we're going from the lunar to the solar, and we don't know how much time got displaced in there. It could be 50 years, it could be 500 years. is. We have no idea to know that for a fact. And so when we look at did Jesus have children in the Middle East or not, he left his eldest son Jesus to reign in his stead. So what we have to consider here is, if we go back to Caesarion was the king of Judea, the emperor of Rome, and the king of the Middle East. I mean, he ruled everything. So that was a big problem in Rome, because they couldn't have an emperor that was outside the box. So, and obviously Octavian wanted the power, so he wasn't going to let anybody steal his thunder. And when Herod the Great went to Rome, he requested to be king of Judea, but he was de facto. And they gave him the kingship, but then he didn't have an army. And he pled to them again, said, look, you made me king, and now I don't even have an army. I can't rule Jerusalem without an army. And so they gave him almost 3 legions, and then he went and sacked Jerusalem. Now that's historic fact, right? So he sacked Jerusalem and took it over. Rome, when Julius Caesar went back to Rome, they assassinated him, because they weren't going to accept him converting to some other religion or any other belief system or anything. They wouldn't accept that. Caesarion was, as soon as he was born, he was already, a target. He had a target on his back, and Herod, and I'm sure Octavian met each other and discussed the matter and had to have him killed. Now, no one knows for sure if Caesarion was killed or if he managed to escape and live in hiding for the rest of his life. What we do know is he's about 17 years old when he disappeared. That would have been old enough for him to have at least a wife and 1 child. That would have been with Miriam. If Miriam were pregnant, that fits the storyline within the gospel outside of the book of Luke. But Mark and Matthew would corroborate that would be the time period in which Joseph had to pretend like that was his wife because she's pregnant. So he didn't want anybody to ask questions. So he pretended he was the vizier of their palace. He took her into hiding, and then they gave birth to Jesus. And that Jesus, Mary married Magdalene. And they had kids. Now he left his eldest son to rule in his stead, because what we're talking about here is a de jure king of Judea. Jesus wasn't the king of Jews. He was the king of the Judeans. This is very important to understand, because the term Jew was used in 441 BC for the first time, and it denoted Semitic people converting to Hellenism, some form of Hellenized belief system or fraternal structuring of their life. This is evident within the Sanhedrin itself, which is a precursor to Freemason in that day. So when Jesus confronted the Freemasons, they didn't like that at all either, because he was tearing apart their hierarchy. The temple in Jerusalem, when the Gospels say Jesus went to speak to the Jews, those are the Hellenized Jews that ran the temple. And he confronted them and flipped their money changers tables over, because there were multiple currencies in the world, but foreign currency, there was no way to know the value. So they would have, the only way you could get your sacrifice at the temple was through a shekel. Well, shekels are worthless to everybody else. So they had to have some medium of exchange. And this was a drachma. It was a little silver coin. There's many different types of drachmas and different value increments, but this particular drachma was used at that time to change it. And that's how the money changers would actually make a profit, because they would give you only X amount of shekels for X amount of silver coins, because it always held its value. And the evidence for this information is actually locked within a parable that Jesus spoke about, the fish's mouth, when he sent the 2 disciples to go get the money, fish, and get the money out of the fish's mouth, and that'd be enough to pay the temple tax. But that's actually a code, because in the Sea of Galilee, there's a type of tilapia fish. And if you squeeze its jowls, you could fit 2 of those drachma coins in its mouth, let the jowls go, and they would lock them in place, and the fish could live its full life and swim around with those coins in its mouth. Anytime you needed money, a Galilean knew that they could go fish, grab a few fish, and pop out the money, and now they got some cash in hand and lunch. And this was going on. I bet you if you dragged the Sea of Galilee, you'd probably find tons of silver coins. You could probably be rich with them. But understanding like how many children he had when he had them, Now, I think that he had probably a young children in tow when they left. They had to have had little children, at least one baby. Now, Jesus, his son, he left behind to rule stuff. So he's old enough to know what he was supposed to do. And he grew up to be a revolutionary because Josephus tells us about these Jesuses, and they all have different teachers. And two of them die in one particular. Two of the other ones don't die, and so they're like, "Are these all different Jesuses?" And part of me, I don't remember everything that Josephus said about him, but when you go through the list of the different Jesuses, different things happen to them. They have different fathers, and when the term father isn't necessarily always your birth father, a genetic father. It means the father, the spiritual father, that it's your mentor. You're choosing to follow him. And people died really quick back then. It was a rough life. So it would be believable that you could have 3 or 4 teachers in one lifetime.
Right.
So somebody you answer to. You got to have a hierarchy to answer to. What are you doing? I'm doing this. Okay. And so that authority keeps going. And Jesus always kept an authority in his life, and evidently burned down the Herod's palace and stole all the gold from him at one point. So we almost have a Robin Hood story coming out here as well. So there's like a early Robin Hood idea that's taken off with Jesus robbing the rich, because this Jesus actually robbed rich Jewish people traveling on the road. And so Jesus was considered a Galilean. Even the Jews said, look, this guy's from Galilee. There's nothing good in Galilee, So we know that Jesus was from Galilee. He wasn't from, any type of direct Jewish circles. And I say Jewish in the term not of race, but of religion.
Right.
So he didn't practice Judaism. Now, this is the misconception that Christianity was born off of, Judaism, which it really didn't. It was a parallel belief system that was something separate, but people wanted to erase it because it was a threat to their authority, and it gained a lot of power and clout, and it was backed by a lot of rich people.
Wasn't there an umbrella set aside during Nicene where they all met together and the bishops met together, and Constantine was told, okay, you got to get a religion out of this because we're going to save Rome. I mean, It's like I always say, the Romans hated Jesus, but then after he died, it was like, well, let's rethink this Jesus thing and let's start a religion. Is that how it worked? Pretty much. And
Constantine was crazy. I mean, he welded one of those 9-inch nails to his crown, and I'm the Son of God, and Jesus is God now, and I'm the Son of God, following that same pattern where Caesarion was considered the Son of God, but when Julius Caesar died, he became God. And so then his son became the Son of God, and so on.
Right.
It's that same thing. So he continued. So that's another clue as to where Christianity and how this all works and plays out, because Constantine knew this pattern, and he wanted to be the new Son of God. So his son would be the Son of God, and then he would then be elevated, and so on.
I think people don't realize that the Pontifex instead of calling them vicars of Christ, I guess, in place of Christ, in place of God. And that's like you say, you look at Constantine, you look at Caesar, you look at all these characters in history, they all thought themselves as being gods.
Yes. And in this sense, even Jesus tells the people in the gospel, he says, hey, speaking to his disciples, he says, don't you know that you are gods, little g? Right. And Christianity is about elevation. When Melchizedek came out to Abram and brought him the bread and wine, he brought him the communion. And Abraham converted and gave 1/10 of all of his spoils to him. And this is part of the tithe. So even Abraham knew the superiority of the early Christians, and they were called Nazarenes in Jesus' day. So the Nazarenes were a different breed of people altogether. And where Nazareth is now, it used to be a kibbutz back in Mary Magdalene's day, and she gave it to Jesus's family as a private. It was a private Nazarene, because the Nazarene faith you can't convert to being a Nazarene. The way the Nazarenes worked, you had to be born within a certain family, and you inherited this. It was a family heritage. You couldn't bring no one in. You could marry someone and bring your children in, but that was the only way in, through marriage, a dynastic wedlock. And that's what took place with Jesus. So
Kelly, well, we got to take a break. Thomas O'Kelly with us. This is fascinating history that you probably never heard, and it's amazing history as we look at the royal genealogies and how they came to be. course, couched in the fact that the Queen has been sitting on the throne now for 70 years, but there's always that idea that somewhere in there is a bloodline that makes them divine, and that's why they are royals. Right here on Channel Weird. We'll be back.
AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Are you stressed? I mean, who isn't? Anxiety creeping in? No, not that. Is sleep hard to attain because your brain just won't slow down? We're living in crazy times, and the fear knob has been turned up. Okay, there's an answer. Take a big breath, exhale, and go log on to AncientLifeOil.com. CBD, broad and full spectrum, organic and non-GMO CBD for you to enjoy. Change your tune from fear to calm, from brain overload to clear thinking. 0.003 THC on full spectrum and 0% THC on broad spectrum. Competitive pricing with the best quality. Also know everything is going to get better. No worries, be happy. CBD can help calm so your nerves don't think they're a 6-string electric guitar. Enjoy life, smile, and log on to AncientLifeOil.com for great CBD. That's AncientLifeOil.com. You'll be glad you did.
It's all over the news. Food shortages and scarcity in the supply chain. And the reality is nobody truly knows what might happen in the near future. Hi, I'm Clyde Lewis, and I want to let you know that it's a good idea to plan ahead so you aren't caught off guard. Nothing's more important than having enough food to eat, and we're here to help. We highly recommend My Patriot Supply, America's leading emergency preparedness company. They provide long-term emergency food that lasts up to 25 years in storage. When grocery stores run empty or disasters strike, their foods will be there when you need them most. Act now and secure at least a 4-week emergency food kit full of tasty meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. They have dozens of emergency food storage kits to choose from, along with a variety of other survival products. If the government tells you not to go out, you can have the peace of mind that comes from being prepared. After you order from My Patriot Supply, your food will arrive discreetly at your doorstep. Prepare today, because time is short. Go to preparewithgroundzero.com. That's preparewithgroundzero.com. Hey guys, it's Clyde Lewis from Ground Zero. You know, with the rise of the cancel culture and an increase in social media censorship, we need to make a big change. So we decided to create a very unique digital platform. It's called Aftermath.media. It's an exclusive online multimedia library featuring an interactive social media section with a chat room, videos, audio clips, archived Ground Zero podcasts, documents, books, and magazines. Our news aggregator provides current news relating to many of the topics we cover. We're expanding our research and study groups as well, which presently includes Tracy Twyman, William Cooper, Mae Brussel, and Jim Keith. Also, check out popular podcast Conspirafact with Wes and Bill. Updated apps will be available soon. The monthly subscription for Aftermath is only $10 a month, and if you sign up now for the yearly subscription, it's only $79. If you want to hear the shows you love and support Great Talk Radio, go to Aftermath.media. Again, that's Aftermath.media.
Thomas O'Kelly with us on Channel Weird. And okay, so we have, an hour, and we've moved through this, breezed through this quickly. And so I guess now I don't want to rush history too quickly.
Yes.
Let's move to the Grail Legends.
Okay.
And okay, so how did all of this evolve into the Grail Legends? Because they're connected as well. So let's move on. I mean, I don't want to rush history. This is too fascinating for me because I'm a big historian and I love genealogy. But okay, so we need to move now. How the Grail Legends began and how this is again another repeat performance of the Christ story.
Okay. Now you were mentioning like people want to know what makes you royal, and this goes back into there's a lot of things going on, but where is the root of the Merovingian, the Lombardi families? Where did they root back to?
Thank you.
One of my specialties was the Maffredingi line. And most people really don't understand who that is or what that is specifically. And I believe with my research, that's an unbroken line back to the Agilolfing kings, who were the Lombardi kings. So they have an unbroken male line. And nobody wants anybody to know that. And what makes them special and what makes these people special is they're part of a commingling that took place across the Caucasus Mountains. So if we go back to the Scythians and we go back to the Alemanni tribes, this Grail legend is rooted back to those people. A lot of the temples up in the Caucasus Mountains that were found to belong to the Alani tribes actually depicted an altar, and on the altar, chiseled in stone, was a sword that was actually in this, it looked like a rock or a stone, right? And so the Grail legends really didn't originate with Britain at all. They go back to something far earlier and pre-Christian, and maybe even more of a mythological belief system within these people who believed that they had these things and they had power. They would grow their hair long, and that's how they would retain their magical ability. This is the same thing that, going back to the Nazarenes, they practice the same thing. So Jesus obviously made his way to Britain and had children, built a temple with his bare hands out of stone, and started his own church there. And then his children married him with British people, and this is where you get British royalty, supposedly, right? Now, we don't have any genealogical proof. This is all based on our own faith. When we're talking about what makes a person royal, we're looking for certain attributes, and that's something that everybody within the dragon community that we've been discussing and talking about, we want to research, and that is there are certain genetic anomalies that pop up that are recognizable, along with what everyone knows as autism. And our goal is to find out, is autism a part of a number of these anomalies that are recognizable by geneticists within the bloodline. And if we can follow that kind of pattern along with genealogy and doing your DNA and then seeing if these attributes pop up, it would mean that certain abilities, what Nicholas de Beer called something little extra in my picnic basket. Some people have stuff, some people don't. And this stuff was recognizable by the Merovingians. They had a thorough testing. You had to prove that you could heal. You had to have 3 miracles to be a king. So any king in the Merovingian, whole dynasty or queen had to prove by miracles that they had power. And that's a hard thing to do. If everybody came to you and said, "Hey, I'm dying, heal me," could we do it? And if that were a test today for leaders, most of these leaders would be fired tomorrow. We might even chop all their heads off, because they're lying. Leadership is born within, and it's given, and even genetic memory. I was just looking at this thing earlier about cloning dogs. If you have a pet, you can, and right here in Texas, they have a cloning facility where you can have your favorite best friend cloned. And the interesting enough, people had questions like, is this really my dog? And is this dog going to act like my dog? And some even questioned, this dog's not acting like my dog. And they would go back and say, hey, something's wrong. And then the people there would say, well, it's in the memory. It'll come back to him. And sure enough, in every situation, the memories of that old dog are transplanted within the new dog, the clone. So these abilities that people would have been able to recognize, they would track them to see if you exhibited these abilities, then you would have the right to rule. You would have the stuff needed to be a king or a queen. Otherwise, it's just that it's a puppet regime. It's pomp, and people didn't live around in a throne room and have pomp all around them all day long. That wasn't how the Merovingians did things. Everybody lived in the palace. The whole family moved in. You had a bedroom, I had a bedroom. We all had lunch together, and we had, everything a part of government would take place to help take care of the people. It was Clovis who unified the Merovingian Empire into one group. He took all the Merovingian tribes, the Frankish tribes, and pulled them together. But he also killed, he mourned this later, that he killed a lot of his family to do this. And so it probably wasn't good to unify all the tribes that way. Let them be free and and do their thing and keep it. Any tribal leader would have had to prove that they had the right stuff. When it comes to the 13 bloodlines of Christ, we have to really look deeply and go, is this based on truth or is this based on a farce? And when you start looking at like the Kennedys, the DuPonts and all, and you lay this all out, like, well, if you're related to the Merovingians, because that's the 13th, well, then you're one of the children of Satan. Well, a lot of people have genealogy going back to the Merovingians, whether it's a third cousin, a fourth cousin, or it's a direct grandparent. Does that mean they're all children of the devil? That makes no sense to me. There's millions of people that are related, and that I don't think any of that information has any weight. What we can see is like Pope Innocent III is my sixth cousin 27 times removed. Pope Innocent III was the one that went after the Albigensian. He called the Albigensian Crusade and killed off all the elves. The 1,000-year elven Holocaust that has not ended. And when you're talking cancel culture, we're talking about a race of people, not just a race, a species that has been erased. And it's my contention and my belief that through thousands and thousands of years for survival, different species sometimes hybridized. And this is the result that we have with dragons. Dragons have something a little extra in their picnic basket because and it's not linear. Just because your parents might be a dragon doesn't make you a dragon. Well, how it works is some people get it, some people don't. And this is the same thing with the Grail legend. The Grail picks whom they, low birth or high birth. The Grail has it picks both male and female. There's no gender disparaging. There's no age. It's just the Grail picks whom the Grail picks, and those people they carry on the Grail tradition. It's born within them. So it's some type of hopscotch, kind of like Rh negative. In my family, it skips every other generation. So my mom was an Rh negative, but her mom was Rh negative. And the same thing on my dad's family. My dad's mom was Rh negative. Now my cousin Patsy, she is Rh negative. So it hops around. Not everybody gets that, but just because you're Rh negative doesn't make you a dragon either. There's a lot of things that are involved here genetically, like these memories in our DNA. If clones get memories, then surely our ancestors' memories are blocked within us. And so that's why you have all these people going, oh, I was Marie Antoinette in a past life. Well,
they got the cellular memory that people talk about that they have. In fact, there was a study that showed that even those who survived the concentration camps, their kids still had the same traumatic memories, which is an amazing topic. Thomas O'Kelly with us talking about the bloodlines, genealogies, why royals are royals. It's an amazing topic right here on Channel Weird. We'll be back.
Hey guys, it's Clyde Lewis from Ground Zero. With the rise of the cancel culture and an increase in social media censorship, we needed to make a big change. So we decided to create a very unique digital platform. It's called Aftermath.media. It's an exclusive online multimedia library featuring an interactive social media section with a chat room, videos, audio clips, archived Ground Zero podcasts, documents, books, and magazines. Our news aggregator provides current news relating to many of the topics we cover. We're expanding our research and study groups as well, which presently includes Tracy Twyman, William Cooper, Nate Russell, and Jim Keith. Also, check out popular podcast Conspirafact with Wes and Bill. Updated apps will be available soon. The monthly subscription for Aftermath is only $10 a month, and if you sign up now for the yearly subscription, it's only $79. You want to hear the shows you love and support Great Talk Radio. Go to Aftermath.media. Again, that's Aftermath.media. It's all over the news, food shortages and scarcity in the supply chain. And the reality is nobody truly knows what might happen in the near future. Hi, I'm Clyde Lewis, and I want to let you know that it's a good idea to plan ahead so you aren't caught off guard. Nothing's more important than having enough food to eat, and we're here to help. We highly recommend My Patriot Supply, America's leading emergency preparedness company. They provide long-term emergency food that lasts up to 25 years in storage. When grocery stores run empty or disasters strike, their foods will be there when you need them most. Act now and secure at least a 4-week emergency food kit full of tasty meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. They have dozens of emergency food storage kits to choose from, along with a variety of other survival products. If the government tells you not to go out, you can have the peace of mind that comes from being prepared. After you order from My Patriot Supply, your food will arrive discreetly at your doorstep. Prepare today, because time is short. Go to preparewithgroundzero.com. That's preparewithgroundzero.com.
On the phone with me is Ronnie from getthetea.com. Hey, Ronnie, it is the tea that makes you go, I know this because I use it. My favorite is pomegranate. What kind of flavors are there to choose from with this wonderful tea?
You can do pomegranate. You can do just the straight, which is real good. And also we have a mint, a peppermint. People really love that one too. And we have a couple new flavors on the way, which I will not discuss yet, but they're coming.
You know, a lot of people don't know that peppermint is a very, very good supplement to keep the stomach happy. It relaxes the intestines, and once again, it makes you feel better because it allows them to move around and get that stuff out of you, that bad stuff out of you.
Absolutely. This is a digest mover. So people have a hard time digesting stuff, or you get something stuck, or maybe you're a real heavy meat eater. The tea is wonderful. That's why it's tagline, the tea that makes you go.
If I want my life to change and get the tea, where do I go to get it?
Getthetea.com. That's getthetea, TEA.com.
Fantastic. It's Channel Weird. Thomas O'Kelly with us. Again, we have to rush again into from the Grail Legends to what we have now with royalty and the throne, the Queen, and of course the bridge would be Prince Charles and of course Prince William, and this is where Tracy Twyman and I would always have arguments. Tracy and I worked with her. She was a producer of mine. We got into the argument over Prince Charles and his fascination with the Grail Legends and the fact that he uses Arthur in his name, and so does Prince William. And that Diana actually called herself, she wanted to call herself, Prince William's Merlin. And I hear all that, and I think to myself, and I've talked about this. We actually wrote a book together, Tracy and I, about the Antichrist. And you were talking about the Devil's Children being Merovingian, and I'm thinking to myself, but doesn't the old poem about the Cross of Lorraine talk about the blood of God in the vein and the blood of Satan in the vein? And wouldn't we have to have, again, like you say, the hybridization to make an Antichrist of our own image and someone who would be a least likely candidate, somebody who stands for peace and unity and everything, but in reality, they are the richest, most keen and cunning liar about the bloodline. And I know a lot of people have argued over the direct bloodlines. I know that Charles believes the same as most about the bloodlines coming from Christ. But then he said something about being related to Vlad Tepes. Mm-hmm. And so it confused me a bit. But there's this argument that we may be seeing, if there is ever and I lack of a better marketing term, Antichrist, it would come from Europe. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, well, there's some interesting information here with the Cross of Lorraine. And they're let's paint the picture of what happened at that time. In the we're talking 1550s, there was what was called the German Revolution. And this is where the evangelical church rose up, and they went around killing Catholics, killing royalty, nobles, running them out of their houses, burning their genealogy, making fun of them, and not only that, they surrounded them. The Teutonic Knights had married into all the Jewish families. So it's a hard thing to look at any type of German person with any heritage in Germany at all and say they're not Jewish. They're all Jewish, just about. They married into the Jewish families, and they were all backed into the Jewish quarter, which was in Lorraine, Alsace. And that in the Jewish quarter, they were surrounded by the evangelicals and a bunch of renegade criminal nobles who had gotten out of prison and was set free, and now they were fighting with all the peasants and serfs and whoever else wanted to join in the evangelical church. They surrounded the Teutonic Knights encampment, and killed everybody, every man, woman, and child, slaughtered all the Jews. So what took place in Lorraine is horrible. And if there was a devil and there was anything, it showed up there. The devil showed up in that place. When we get into fanaticism, a lot of things can happen in cult groups, and we already know that. We see a lot of that stuff going on in our day, and who drank the Kool-Aid. But when we're talking the Antichrist, there's a lot of other things in there, and there's so many things locked in there. But what I do believe is that the Bible lets us know exactly, gives us a description of the beast. We know he speaks like a dragon. So we know he's of dragon descent. He wears a leopard print. Okay, so he's definitely of a kingly line. So we know he has genealogy. And there's other descriptors in there that bring it all about to us that will let us know exactly what this person is made of. Most likely is a European. I don't know. A lot of Christians today are saying it's a Muslim. I think that's nonsense as well.
It is nonsense. I agree.
Yeah. I believe that it's going to be someone's probably from Europe that is going to be the Antichrist for sure, and it's going to be a dragon descent. But the reason why I brought up Pope Innocent III and the 1,000-year Elven Holocaust was basically for this reason right here. He's my sixth cousin, 27 times removed. That means he was a dragon, and he was an elf. Why was he killing his own people? And we're talking about the Toulouse family, and their defense of all the Cathars and the Albigensians and their belief system that we were all kind of tricked into these bodies or fooled by Rex Mundi or put into flesh bodies. And now we're here in a world of suffering. And there's no way out of here but to suffer for the most. We're all going to suffer something. And there's no way around it. If we want to speculate what the Antichrist is and what that image is, it's probably more so archetypical, kind of like how you were saying Diana was, I'm your Merlin, and they like to liken themselves to Arthur. These are archetypes that we find within ourselves. We have to put these things together, kind of like how the tarot cards really work, is more of an introspective use. It's not for fortune telling. It's for picking out things within ourselves and working through our own issues, and it brings questions that you never would normally ask yourself. And that's what they're for. They're an exercise, and these archetypes are exercises. And I'm not against doing that. Like you could say, well, I want to personify an Arthurian type. I want to be a king like Arthur. I want to be the once and future king. I want to bring peace. I want to bring people together around a round table. I want to make all these things happen. I think when we take charge of our own life, take responsibility for who and what we are, I think the people who do that are the ones that make the most of change. They can change the world. I can't remember the Russian author who was in a concentration camp and then ended up in another concentration camp in Russia when he was set free from Germany. So he was in two camps, and he said to himself, like, I can't remember his name, and forgive me, but he said to himself, like, what got me here? And he took full responsibility and wrote a book. He took the blame. It's my fault I'm here. This is all my choices. I ended up in this situation. This is where I'm at. He wrote a book, and that book is what brought down communist Russia. It's what changed the mentality. People read his book and went, whoa, I'm thinking differently now. I got a different idea, a different perspective, and it changed the mindset. So it shifted everything. And without his book, it probably never would have happened the way it happened. It might have happened at some point, but not maybe as fast as it did. That guy brought about all the change. And again, forgive me for not knowing his name offhand, but
well, that's okay. I just when I look at the rituals that the royals do, and all the things they like, for example, the wedding on the Cosmati pavement, and the idea of putting Princess Diana in a tomb that's in the middle of a lake. You just have this image of Arthurian Holy Grail. What was she carrying? She was carrying the Holy Grail when she was carrying Prince William. She was called the Rose. Mary was called the Rose that was carrying the Grail, the descendant of Jesus. I mean, it was, or Jesus himself. It just all parallels, and we have to understand. Is this a real birth of a new God among us, or is this a counterfeit birth? and that this leader that's going to come forward is a counterfeit leader who claims to be of the bloodline lineage of Jesus or the bloodline lineage of the Merovingians or whomever, and that should be a signal to people that we're dealing with someone who thinks of himself as greater than the sum total of everybody that's around him.
Yeah, definitely narcissistic. You know, if we look at where the name Lucifer comes from, the bright morning star, and we go to Isaiah chapter 14 and break it down exactly what this being said he would do. Jesus did exactly that in the gospel. So, and Jesus is also referred to in Revelation chapter 22 as the bright morning star. So now what we're talking about, and the reason why they changed it to Lucifer in the text, the Latinized version of that, was because they wanted to cover up. They didn't want anybody to put the two and two together. They were like trying to make it a secret. If Jesus is the bright morning star, certainly Lucifer can't be the same thing, or this evil demon guy, you know. Mm-hmm. So again, these are archetypes, and everything has potential. Just like Pope Innocent III is a dragon. If I'm a dragon and Pope Innocent III is a dragon, it's dragons killing dragons. That's what we're looking at. It's this group of people that are killing each other to get one-upmen above someone else, maybe even to absorb their power. There could be all sorts of weird, grandiose thoughts in someone's mind when they're
There's the magic in the blood that basically separates it all to make them royal. They have to have this magic. They have to have, I don't know if it's alchemical or something. This is what you're trying to tell me.
Yes. Yeah. And some people are more tapped in than others. If Nick is right about something a little extra in your picnic basket, it could be these recognizable anomalies within our genetic makeup could be clues to where these certain abilities, like, am I psychic? Do I have psychic powers? Does that mean that I can heal people? Does that mean I could levitate? You know, I wouldn't jump out of a building to test the theory, but if you find yourself levitating above your bed one day, you don't have to tell everybody, but at least you know you did it, right? But some people want power, and they think that they're going to, and I think that's where we get the Antichrist. It could happen anytime. The Antichrist is a spirit, according to the text, if we want to go biblical. It's a spirit that enters into people. It's a type of attitude and belief system within somebody, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to keep and retain power. I think that the whole Arthurian thing within the British family is very important to them as an archetype to play off onto the people and win their hearts. It's easier to win their hearts and play these little games where people go, I wonder if they're special or different. They have enough money to put on this. I mean, if money were no object, I could throw a party and make it look esoteric and make it look like I know something that I don't, and then make myself look even more important. Charles is related to Vlad the Impaler, so am I. He's related to a lot of people, within that paradigm, but that doesn't make him better, or he just happened to be lucky enough. Well, the Saxe-Coburgs killed off the senior line to get where they're at. So they killed off all of their elders and the people that were in charge of their family, and the junior line assumed power, and they ended up in Britain.
I think though, what I guess I could directly ask you this: if anybody comes forward from any bloodline that we're discussing and declares themselves Rex Mundi, should we be apprehensive? I mean, should we just go, wait a minute, I'm once and future king, ladies and gentlemen, this is scary. What do you think?
I think we should be apprehensive if anybody says that, just because we don't know what they're going to do. They could be psychotic or whatever and hurt you physically, and I'm not outside the paradigm. It's within my faith that I know that there are fourth dimensional beings that are living vicariously off of us. We're almost like a food, and it feeds off of our emotions, and it's sucking off any type of negative energy that we can produce, even positive energy. If we're producing something, it's going to feed on it. And I have no doubt that these beings, if they wanted to rule, they would inhabit somebody that's empty. And Jesus spoke of the wheat and the tare. So what we're looking at is that a whole bunch of people, we all look like wheat, but some of us don't have seed inside. And that seed would be spirit. Some of us have a spirit, others don't. So if we're a whole bunch of people on earth, and some have something inside, and some people, and the very few don't have, or they do have something inside, the rest don't, we're going to have issues. And so those empty containers have to be filled with something. And if you're some fourth dimensional being that needs somewhere to inhabit for a while and have fun, you're going to enter into somebody. So the potential within the bloodline genetically for the Antichrist is finding the right vessel, the vessel that either one gives itself over and says, yes, take me, I'll be what you want me to be, and I'll do it. But it would have to come out of these particular bloodlines. It would have to come out of this genetic mixture. So these beings are intelligent, whatever they are, and they're there. That's where all these anomalies and things take place. And within those anomalies that we see genetically, those are the precursors to what we call a miracle taking place, or something tragic, again, an Antichrist showing up and wanting to kill and annihilate the world.
This is, I could talk to you all afternoon, but we're limited now. I got the music playing. Where can we find more information about what you do and the genealogies? And everybody's related to royalty, so let's find out. Where do you go, Thomas?
RoyalDragonCourt.com. You can go to that's our website, and on we're on Facebook as well, which is the Royal Dragon Court, Nicholas de Beer von Drakenberg. It's hyphen Nicholas de Beer von Drakenberg. But if you do a search, it should bring up the group, and you can join there, ask questions. You can, if you need to buy the book, Dragon Legacy, we have it on sale there as well.
And a shout out to Abby de Beer. I know she's watching today, so hi.
Yeah, she was injured, and so sorry she couldn't be here.
Oh yeah, it would have been great, but still, you're amazing. Thank you so much for being on the program. Channel Weird, guys. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.